So I went through this website looking for some interesting study reference. I came across this San Francisco street picture by photographer Bart Towneg. I really liked it. When I looked at it, I imagined this street very high in the background, very exaggerated, cutting through the center of the image. I had a picture on the other screen as a reference, had my coffee next to my keyboard and started painting. I started with the background color, then moved to filling the image with shapes, started painting the trees, but I couldn't wait to see how the exaggerated street would look like. So I moved to painting the street. I was looking at the reference and I wanted to keep the feeling, and I really liked some shapes like the cars on the sides and that composition in the picture. It's very cool. When you're starting a new painting, even when you do a reference study like I do here, before you dive into details, try to take some time to plan your composition. Think about where you want the viewer to look first and how you lead the eye through the rest of the painting. It's great to have the idea in your head before you start. And don't worry if the outcome is different. The important thing is to have a plan. So I need to talk about the composition of that photo. The main road cuts through the image. It creates a very strong central perspective line that draws the eye from the foreground into the background. When I looked at it in the first moment, I noticed that the central line, that street, is moving straight ahead and far in the distance, and it's like taking off upwards like a spaceship or something. Whoosh. I really like that, and I wanted to capture that feeling. Like when you see a good picture or painting and you see that energy line, especially stylized art, had that dynamic feel to it. Even if it's a still image, you can feel it. The composition is split rather symmetrical, but by the main road. However, there's that asymmetrical balance. More trees on the left, sunlight hitting on stuff on the right. You can see more lit building structures on the right, so that feels a bit more natural, organic maybe. And there's this thing called asymmetrical balance. What I read about asymmetrical balance is like arranging furniture in a room. You don't need identical pieces on each side to make it feel right. And in a painting, it's the same way. You're creating a sense of balance without making things mirror each other. Another way to understand this is to imagine your canvas as one of those old weight scales where you have to put stuff to balance each other out. A large dark shape on one side might be balanced by few smaller and lighter shapes on the other side. Or bright color in one area could be balanced by a larger area of muted colors on the other side. For example, in that street scene that I'm painting, balance with the detailed cluster of sharp buildings on right, balance against the larger, simpler masses of trees on the left. And even though these elements are completely different, they feel balanced because their visual weight feels to me similar. And at least this is how I feel about it. So on the right side gets busy with all those random architectural details. Trees on the left side look good in their place because they're bigger and they have strong, solid shapes. They don't need to be as detailed because their size and mass give them enough visual importance to stand against all that architectural detail. The cool thing about asymmetrical balance is that it creates more dynamic, interesting composition. more interesting than the perfect symmetrical ones, in my opinion. It feels more natural, more alive, and it feels more organic. When you're painting, try to feel this balance intuitively. If something feels too heavy on one side, try adding elements of different sizes, values, or colors to the other side until it feels right to you. And try to take a break, step back, squint, and look at your composition from distance. Try to look at it as a whole and ask yourself, are there clear paths for eye to follow? Do you have a good balance of busy and quiet areas? Does your eye know where to look first? So this question will help you strengthen your composition as you work. And when I was starting out, I had to take longer breaks sometimes to notice the errors in my composition. I took a few days off sometimes. I came back and fixed the stuff. And now it's getting easier. And also remember that there is no strict formula. It's about creating composition that feels stable while still being dynamic and engaging. And sometimes a tiny bright spot can balance a large dark area. Or a complex detail section can be balanced by a simple bold shape. So I would say trust your eye and don't be afraid to experiment with different arrangements until you find what works for you. If you want to know more about my painting process, I'm working on a course about color and light in digital painting. The waiting list is now open. You can sign up and get special discount when it's ready.